Good evening, CCAFO. I told you guys I would speak to you Monday before the game, so I don't plan on staying on the phone or the Facebook Live too long, just for those who are Jet fans, or actually, I think the only Jet fan on our board that I'm aware of is Cronenberg, and the only Brown fan I think in the state of Connecticut might be Joe Vance, but that's their problem. I just wanted to speak to guys about a few things now that week one is in the books. I want to talk about communication. Last week, at last week's meeting, the BOC did a great presentation on communication, and I just want to reiterate a few things, namely to the White Hats. This document right here was the one that was presented and was revised from last year. That is the document that we should be using to conduct our pre-games. We should be using that as a checklist to kind of go through things. The protocol that should happen is the officials, usually it's the referee and the umpire, but all officials should be welcome to attend the coaches meeting. So the coaches meeting should happen prior to the game starting. We should actually meet with all the coaches, 90 minutes before kickoff. We want to just basically try to gather as much information as we can about their game plan, scouting reports, any concerns they may have. A lot of times that's from things that they saw last week or things that they saw on film. Again, we want to at that point address players properly equipped, captains' numbers, QBs, lefties, righties, centers' names and numbers, all that information. Then we should take that information and we should bring that back to the locker room and have the pregame. It's very important that we conduct the pregame after the coaches meeting. We have a lot of newer officials that are going to be incorporated into the varsity plan this year. So for veteran officials who are accustomed to having a veteran crew, can't assume that these newer officials are going to be fully prepared. The more information that we can have during that pregame discussion, the more ease that they're going to be, and the better that they should perform. So meet with the coaches, go back to the locker room, have that pregame discussion, and then you can go ahead and take the field. At that point, we should just be basically checking the footballs, meeting with the game personnel as far as the ball boys, addressing the train crew, sweeping the field, and then basically going ahead and starting the football game. So that's how everything should work. After the game, we should spend 5 or 10 minutes, having a post-game discussion, basically talking about anything that we could have done better, things that we did right in the game, but how can we improve from that night's performance. The game that I was in on Friday at Hall, we talked about some of the things that we could have improved upon. And, we talked about things that we did right. And, we also talk about plays that could be a question. Usually after every game, our interpreters will go ahead and slice up huddle, and they'll disseminate the game film for us. If you have any questions about a game, look through your game film. You can definitely learn a lot about the plays that might be in your mind or things that you might have questions with. In our game, the Hall, Simsbury at Hall, we had a couple of plays that Hall had sent in. And, I think two plays were legitimate arguments in our game. And I believe that the interpreters are going to show some of that tomorrow. So it shouldn't come to a surprise if your plays aren't displayed at the interpretation portion of our meetings. It is a learning tool. It's not a situation to throw someone under the bus. And before that information is being used for the board, the crew should be made aware that film is going to be used. The last thing that I want to talk about too is after you have that post-game discussion, obviously there's ratings that go involve. As we continue to work through the rating process and try to make that a little bit more usable for future use, we shouldn't be trying to, screw our brother officials. Again, we want to make that rating system a fair process. Whether you want to give good comments or negative feedback, I should say, have the courage, have the balls to go ahead and put your name or initials to anything that you can write. I think that's only fair. If you disagree with someone, let them know your feelings and your thoughts about that. So we shouldn't be trying to screw a brother official on the ratings or anything of that nature. I did mention huddle. Interpreters are going to be using huddle as a tool for us to grow, to learn, to get better on our improvement. Huddle, again, is just a valuable tool as the coaches continue to send us the game film. That will be made available to you to go ahead and review any type of plays. And again, if we can get a learning database of plays, whether it's blindside blocks, targeting, blocks below the waist, chop blocks, hits on defenseless receivers, hopefully we can build that database, that library that we can go ahead and use for future trainings. The last thing I want to talk about is the schedule. For those who had a sub-varsity game today, you probably noticed that game was probably canceled. There are a lot of changes that are going on with sub-varsity games. A lot of cancellations because schools, they schedule games at the beginning of the year, but right now they just realize that they don't have the bodies to fulfill a freshman game and sometimes even a sub-varsity game. There have been a few schools who have been combining the freshman and varsity programs, canceling one game and rescheduling a game where the freshman and varsity players combined play a game. So that's been happening. We've been seeing a lot of those games go from a Saturday morning to like a Saturday night. So if you have sub-varsity games on your schedule and you see things are changing, please continue to check the arbiter. You need to re-accept the assignment or to go ahead and decline it. And if you are going to decline it, we want to go ahead and fill that with the appropriate and available official. And the last thing I mentioned, you've heard me say this a few times now, week 10, which is Friday, October 4th. We currently have 20 games on the docket. That's over 126 officials that we're going to need on the field. I am going to start working on the revisions for October 4th. So if you are available now and have accepted an assignment, chances are you're going to stay in an assignment, but it may not be in the current game that you are in. We need to shuffle some things and balance some crews around to accommodate some of these newer officials that are going to be added to the game. We did put in a request to have a school move their game from Friday to Saturday, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So we're just going to go ahead and make do. So Friday, October 4th is an all hands on deck situation. If you are currently blocked out and have the ability to go ahead and unblock yourself, that would be a great help. Right now, I'm not anticipating any games going to a 6 or 7 man that night. So knock on wood that doesn't happen because, again, we are very thin on Friday, October 4th. So that's about everything that I have. Again, I hope for those who are going to be enjoying a Monday evening watching the game that we have at least an exciting first half, because I don't think I'm going to be watching too much of that. I might just be watching some 2.5 men reruns, working on the schedule. Not really a Jets fan, but I would like to see what the Browns can do offensively. And that's pretty much about it. So remember, tomorrow's meeting is at 7 p.m. Two Rivers Middle School, East Hartford, Connecticut. Hope to see you there and enjoy the game. Be safe.